Welcome to On a Shoestring Production.
Dreamer Cats TV.
On this 36-mile day walk from Hythe to Hastings, you'll see the enchanting Romney Marsh, the controversial wind farm, Spike Milligan's grave at Winchelsea, and the cliffs at Hastings Country Park, which I found much more challenging than when I walked along the white cliffs of Dover. Now, I've already done a video about my walk along the entire 28 miles of the Royal Military Canal, built just in case Napoleon Bonaparte suddenly decided to nip over and invade our shores, but fortunately that didn't happen. The canal follows the boundary between the low-lying triangular peninsula known as the Romney Marsh and the rest of the county of Kent. But I decided to do something different this time and explore the interior of the Romney Marsh rather than following the familiar canal route. Those hills that we're leaving behind form the coastline in Roman and early Anglo-Saxon times. If it weren't for a series of drainage dykes and sea wall, which incidentally I've also strolled along in a earlier video, huge swathes of the Romney Marsh would revert back to its namesake, marshland. It's a lovely quiet place to collect your thoughts, even during the summer months when the countless caravan parks and campsites are flooded with excited holiday makers looking forward to building sandcastles on the lovely beaches. Some of the footpaths aren't always clearly marked, so I took the liberty of walking mostly along the maze of quiet country roads, flanked by hedgerows and reed-filled ditches bursting at the seams with wildlife, avoiding the dangerous busy main roads as much as possible. The country lanes were quite easy to navigate since you could see the landmarks for miles around, plus the farms are clearly named, matching those on the maps. I can see why it's a cyclist's paradise. Now, I could have cheated by following the familiar canal routes, but good job I didn't, since the pathway was closed where it approaches the town of Rye. I thought it would be fun exploring the interior of the Romney Marsh this time, visiting as many of the quaint little villages as possible, whilst not straying too far from my original goal of reaching the town of Hastings. Unfortunately, my plan was a wee bit spoilt, because one of the country roads I was following was closed for construction work, and perhaps due to fatigue I couldn't locate the pathway that would have taken me safely through to Rye. So I ended up walking along parts of the A259, which funnily enough Google recommended as the fastest walking route, but it certainly wasn't the safest, since I had to constantly dive into the verge every few seconds to avoid being squished by juggernauts and farm tractors. Once I arrived at Rye, I continued my walk at the River Breed Lock Gate in Harbour Road, following the Royal Military Canal, except that part of the canal is in fact part of the river. Last time I walked along this stretch, I didn't have the energy to ascend the steep hill to the intriguing town of Winchelsea, but I was determined not to miss out this time. And here's where Spike Milligan is buried, at the lovely local church, the madcap comedian who inspired the likes of Monty Python. Then I motored on to the end of the Royal Military Canal, but if you walk further up the adjacent road you'll find this little idyllic dyke. And then on the other side of the road is the coastal pathway that leads to the beautiful village of Fairlight Cove, its relative gentleness perhaps lulling me into a false sense of security for the last stretch of the journey. It was starting to get dark, but fortunately I had the foresight to take a headlamp just in case. I filmed less frequently at this stage for fear I would miss my last train, as I frantically descended and ascended seemingly endless sets of steps in woods and heathland that appeared to send me round and round in circles. But as I finally considered the possibility that I might have to stay there the night with the bats and strange noises as company, I was relieved to spot those pinpricks of light that was the town of Hastings. Thank you for watching my video, and please feel free to leave a comment and feedback. The end is merely the beginning of infinitely more cardboard video adventures.